Welcome to A Man's Perspective. Today I'm going to be having a conversation with Kris. He's a Kenpo instructor. Kris, thank you so much for being here. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name is Kris Eszlinger. I'm with Z Ultimate Self-Defense Studios. I've been a practicing martial artist for well over 35 years and professionally teaching amongst all that time. And it's my very first podcast, so looking forward to the outcome on this.
Oh, outstanding. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. The conversations are always what I think build relationships, build societies. It's the conversations. So that's why I'm doing this.
Very good.
All right, so I have a list of questions I'm going to ask you, and then we're just going to discuss them. How long have you been doing Kenpo?
I started practicing when I was a very young kid, but it wasn't actually Kenpo at that time. It was more towards like the wrestling and then boxing type, fighting arts. And I became very, very proficient at a very young age of getting my ass kicked. And that's, truth be known, where the martial arts really kind of came in. I had two older brothers. So, every day walking through the front door, their buddies were there, and I was the little brother. So any new technique or anything that they wanted to explore on, I was the guinea pig. Growing up, I was also one that I thought I had a really good sense of humor, but a lot of people took it as sarcasm and being a smartass. I got chased down a lot and beat up a lot too. So that's where I first learned the aspects of martial arts training, is how to take a good beating and, stand up and get yourself out of there again. And my serious studies kind of became consistent when I was a teenager. Parents were going through divorce. I was, 15, 16 years old, and, basically had carte blanche to do whatever I kind of wanted to do. And I was out there lost a little bit and got into the martial arts and entered an environment where it was traditional, respectful, had a structure to it, and a lot of great people around to kind of keep you in line. Yeah. And, I'm still doing it to this day.
Fantastic. And where did you grow up at?
I was actually born in South Dakota.
Oh, wow.
And moved to California when I was 7. And we traveled back and forth because my grandparents lived in North Dakota and had a farm and everything. So we'd spend a lot of our summers back there until they passed. So up until I was about 16, back and forth. And then the rest of the time has been always out here in California. Beautiful Southern California.
Yeah, people don't recognize or realize how the weather is so amazing out here. I've lived in Georgia, I've lived in Arkansas, and the weather is just tremendous out here. Like, I'm sure in South Dakota it was cold. I've never been there, but I read it gets cold over there.
Oh yeah, you get the well below zeros in the wintertime when you're out there, and especially North Dakota, they get those blizzards. But I will say this: the North Dakota people and South Dakota people, they're tough. They don't rely on anybody to come save them. They look out for each other's neighbors, and need be, if they're even these 80-year-old men and women are out there shoveling their own snow and getting their cars moving and grooving and checking in on everybody. So there's just it's a very resilient group of tough people. The old school Germans.
Wow, yeah. It seems like that's gone now, that taking care of each other, looking out for each other. I don't really see that too much out here in California. Do you think that's a regional thing or a state thing? Or?
As we all know, and we're all living through right now, there's all sorts of debates going on, from political debates to gender debates to sexual debates to school debates and everything, and race debates. And everybody's got something to say. And, when people ask me that question or discuss it with me, it comes down to this: I don't really believe we have political issues, race issues, gender issues. I believe we have humanity issues. That the aspects of just being a good human being has kind of disappeared because of your gender or your color of your skin or whatever. Bottom line is, I would hope that the aliens would come down and start circling the earth, because I assure you that everyone would start aligning themselves shoulder to shoulder and doing what we can to protect our planet. But being that we don't have those aliens out there, threatening us, everybody's kind of against each other in some form or another. Yeah. And I don't know, I kind of believe it's kind of your attitude, how you approach things. And even some people that are off a little bit, you can kind of reach them. But yeah, there's too much publicity on the negative side of the tracks versus trying to put something together to get back into the old school version of just help each other out. Because I think human beings are on this planet to kind of serve each other, to help each other grow and to develop better things that help each other. But unfortunately, it's kind of gone a little crazy.
Yeah, well, I agree with you 100%. We're designed to cooperate. That's our strength, because we're not the strongest, we're not the fastest. Some marine biologists believe dolphins are smarter than us. So we may not even be the smartest, but our strength is working together, coming together as a unit. And that's how we build everything. That's how we got freeways, bridges, buildings. Yeah, our strength is in cooperation. So I 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
I just wish there was a way we can get past all the rhetoric that separates and divides us. Because I believe that on a day-to-day level, on practical experiences, that we do work with each other. Especially like me and my friends at work, we're constantly dependent on each other for our safety, for our lives, even for things like food. Like if I get caught up on reports, someone will come and ask me, "Hey, what do you want to eat? I'll get you some food. What do you want to drink?" We take care of each other on a day-to-day basis. So I don't know, how do we get past all the narratives and the rhetoric?
People could rewind a few thousand years ago and realize where we all come from and how we've all evolved. Because the reality is, as human beings, genetically, we haven't changed in thousands of years. We're the same. Obviously, our communities have changed, technology has changed, and all these things. But initially, we were hunters and gatherers. We kind of cruised from place to place in always search of food, but we relied on each other. So that, again, once you did, take down the big bear that everyone was going to be eating, everyone had a role and a responsibility towards that aspect of making sure that the tribe was fed, and there was someone that's going to be responsible for getting the firewood, and someone's going to make sure the spear tips are sharp. And you kind of look at that basis of survival was really reliant on each other. And now that we kind of get out, and it's like anything else, when you start achieving certain levels of success, you start sometimes taking things for granted about where you came from. Not everybody, but I think that's really what our human species has done, because we're really living in the best of times. And if you think about it, we as just average people are living better than kings and queens did 100 years ago. We got running hot water. You go to the grocery store and you can have a meal, and these guys would normally send out 10 people to go and, go to the fruit trees and go take down that animal and do this. And, in 10 hours, we'll have a meal prepared. No, drive down the street and come back here in 30 minutes, and you're eating better than the kings and queens of the day.
I read stories where, like, as little as 200 years ago, the average person was eating like once every 3 days, 2 days, because you had to forage your food. You had to work. If you didn't work, you didn't eat. That saying was actually like a real thing. Right now we kind of just see it as like most people don't even understand it. But it's as little as 200 years ago, we weren't eating every single day the way we are now.
So I think if people could kind of relate back to where we come from, and then again, and I'm always one too, that if you can live in a mode of gratitude, your mind is a lot more open. If you're living in a mode of anger, frustration, irritation, aggravation, political static, or whatever you kind of get caught up in, all of a sudden you become protective on anything and everything. You become closed-minded, because again, that's kind of a human instinct as well, to protect ourselves. But if you sit and kind of look at everything that you have, that you're grateful for that, and you have the ability to share it with others, and then you see the joy that brings, it kind of rekindles that aspect of the human spirit of being connected to each other.
Oh, I want to ask you this question, because we were talking before we started recording, and you're a very wise man. If you were, that's true.
I told you I got my ass kicked a lot when I was a kid, man. So
Oh, that brings wisdom, though. People don't realize how much wisdom that brings. Because me too, I got bullied, and but if you were like the king of the world right now, if I could grant you, full authority for everything, what would you do? What would you change to bring us back to that position of gratitude and being there for each other?
I've often said this, and I truly believe this. I think every single person should do martial arts. I think everyone should train in the martial arts, because it's kind of like Israel. Everybody's got to go through the military service for at least 2 to 3 years. And I think it's incredibly important, because it brings a culture together. It reminds people of what we are. You have to work together. You can't get good at martial arts by yourself. You're relying on another person, whether it be the instructor. But my belief is that when you walk through there, and if you go into where you're bowing into an environment, and the room you train in is called a dojo. And it's a Japanese word meaning place of enlightenment. And a place of learning is really important. It's like a classroom. But a classroom is set up to where you're going to learn information. You're going to take a test. You'll be graded right or wrong. Our dojo environment is constructed in a way that you want to do things wrong. We want that to be the place for you to do things wrong, because in the martial arts, it's, in my opinion, it's almost more important to know exactly how not to do something as well as to do it right. So if you, again, can come into an environment where you're going to be encouraged to do your best, but understanding you will make mistakes, and you're not going to be faulted for it, you're not going to be graded down, you're not going to be degraded, you're going to be enlightened and taught, again, your mind's going to open up. Then when you have the interaction with people, you're going to feel that connection, whether it's, again, the admiration of a really good sensei or an instructor that's sharing wisdom with you. And bottom line is, if somebody teaches me how to kick better, punch better, gets me stronger, gets me focused, obviously I'm going to have a lot of respect for that person, because the path they're taking me on is beneficial to me, and you feel it. And what we try to, we got 3 slashes to the Z. And it emphasizes the aspect that martial arts is good for your mind, it's good for your body, and it's good for your spirit.
Wow.
And when you have that balance of mind where you can learn to patience, you can learn forgiveness even through things when you get hit by another student. But your body being strong, you have your cardiovascular training, you have your strength, you have your flexibility, and then spirit. What is your spirit? I call our human body, to me, it's called an earth suit. It's kind of what houses our spirit out there. And if you can kind of keep the balance amongst all of those things, it kind of allows you to kind of go out. Once you bow out of the dojo and go out to real life, you carry it with you so that you're still, even though you're not in the studio or the dojo wearing a uniform, practicing your martial arts, you're out walking everyday life, but still living with that philosophy of a student.
Yeah.
And I think it also, when you kind of break it down, I mean, our number one instinct as human beings, going back, is survival.
Yeah.
So it kind of wires in with what we're naturally wired to do.
Yeah, I think you're right. Making mistakes in a training environment is what keeps us alive. Because you don't want to make mistakes imagine if you get a wrong read on a person out there in the real life, and he's because there are people out here that really want to hurt you.
Yeah.
And so making the mistakes and not reading the body language right in training, you just get correction and you grow. But out here in the real world, you can get really hurt if you make those same mistakes.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. Discipline, the training, growing and learning. I like the spiritual part of it. I think a lot of people don't, especially now, we don't really put so much emphasis on the spiritual part of our being. We've definitely taken God out of whatever God is to you. We've definitely taken God out of our culture, of our society, and I think that takes out the not the morality of our society. I think it removes all of that. And that's why we get so much hedonism and so much selfishness now, because everybody seems to be super selfish now. It's all about me now. We live like in a me culture.
Right.
And what I see. Where's your studio? Where's your dojo at?
We actually have them in throughout California, Washington, Colorado, Illinois, Minnesota. And if you go to www.zultimate.com, that is the letter Z as in Zulu on the radio, the word ultimate.com. So they're all over the place. But if I can, I want to jump back to what you just brought up about the disengagement of the spirituality of our planet, if you will.
Yeah.
And obviously we have a lot of organized religion out there. Yeah. And we've seen a lot of hypocrisy that comes through that organized religion. And I'm a spiritual guy. I believe there's definitely a universal force out there that's greater than us, and I definitely call him God or it God or whatever that force is. But there's definitely something out there. There's we're definitely not the smartest breed in this universe, so we all know that. But I think when you really look at most all religions, it all comes down to there's a lot of common denominators about be good to each other, don't kill each other. So you look at the foundation of most of it's good. And then all of a sudden it gets, again, politicized. And then it's all of a sudden you're chastised for this. And it's the guilt-ridden stuff. And again, all different breeds for different people. But I think if people could just get back into, and here's what it really sums down to, I think, and I'm very blessed because one of my best friends is a doctor. He's a retired doctor now. But through medical school, he studied archaeology. So he's really, really big into understanding human evolution, people, things. And he's still, even though he's retired from his practice, he still stays up with the latest and greatest of medical studies and human studies. So like you said about reading people, he'd be great for this. Yeah, he's quirky. And he's like one of these walking, talking geniuses that's very quirky, funny as hell. But he made a statement a long time ago, and it's really resonated with me. And it's, you can't have a good relationship with anybody or anything until you have a good relationship with yourself. Yeah. And when you really kind of practice that discipline, that if you're feeling something, that you're feeling angst, you're feeling angry, frustrated, whatever it might be, or you're not liking some person, you really kind of look within yourself first. Because, I mean, we're with ourselves. Isn't this the easiest person to control is me? Yeah. And why am I it's none of my business really what this person thinks about me or what they said about me. But if I allow it to affect me, now who's really out of control? Yeah. And if you're trying to have a conversation and trying to reason with a crazy person, who's really the crazy person?
Yeah, that doesn't work. I've tried that many times.
Yeah, it's like, wait, I'm trying to reason. But I mean, again, with your career, I mean, that's your job to be out there to. And by the way, thank you for doing that. So we don't have to deal with them. So I don't have to beat people up out there and get them off the streets. But the reality is, it's a much easier way to look at it. And a lot of people will just, again, they'll do the projection thing because they don't know how to manage that emotional state that they're feeling. Yeah. And that's where things get out of control. Things get said, then this one, and then it's tit for tat. And it just grows. And then all of a sudden, they hit a point where they literally have no ability to reel it back in or emotionally or verbally manage what that situation is. And then they end up going and walking away and taking that anger and frustration to the next person, to the next person, and then it gets shared with everybody.
I learned that in the jails, working in the jails. Our jails are filled with men who have an inability to control their emotions.
Yeah.
They react based on how they feel instead of taking control, doing some breathing techniques, trying to make a good decision. They just react. Yeah. So you're, man, me and you see eye to eye almost on everything.
Well, through my years, one of our goal is to ultimately inspire people to realize their personal best. And the human species is great because there's so many variables, as you know. But through the journey of teaching people from, kids that grow to teens, that grow to adults, and parents that come in, there's a huge problem still to this day with alcoholism, drug abuse, and all that type of stuff. So I've had, instructors and students that have, had the challenges of alcoholism or drug dependency. So we've walked them through the processes of there and participated with them to help them understand that. And I will say this, that AA and the big book and the philosophies they talk about are fantastic. And the more I read that book with, the people that I was working with, and I'm looking at them and I'm going, this stuff should be taught in school. Because really what it does, exactly what you just identified, it teaches you how to manage your emotions. It gives you that toolbox. When you feel this way, here's something you can do instead of, like we just talked about, having this catalyst just all of a sudden blow out and it just builds and builds. And then you're basically getting fueled up with more aggravation that you're taking to the next person, and they take it and they take it and so on. And it's all over the place.
Yeah. Wow. I was told that you're wise beyond your years. Man, it's true.
Well, I'm only 27 years old. How do I look?
Someone mentioned that to me, and I was like, someone told me, yeah, this man's really filled with wisdom. I'm like, oh, okay. I really want to have a conversation with him. And man, 100% true. That's 100% true with you, sir. Thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome. And I think that if people can realize there's resources out there to help you grow. Yeah. And we talk about it because we have a lot of, instructors, and we're always working with them to be, better with people, how to handle people better, how to promote better, how to teach better, all of those factors. But if you really look, we are in a wealth of information now.
Yeah.
If I wanted to learn how to cook, some unique recipe that I've never, or, some European dish that I've never done before, I know I can go to YouTube and I'll find it.
Yeah.
I mean, we can do anything on there, but it comes down to this. What's your desire? What do you want to do? Do you want to be an angry person? Do you want to be a happy person? Because me personally, I look at happiness. It's kind of like being physically fit. Being physically fit, I don't like going to the gym. I really don't. I like leaving the gym and I always feel better, but getting there is kind of like, you got that thing. Well, guess what? Happiness is the same thing. It's a discipline. Yeah. It's something you must practice. And otherwise, again, what are you going to be doing? You're going to be subject to people interfering with your happiness by allowing them to aggravate you. Yeah. And again, if you're not managing it well and dispersing that negative energy in a productive way, that's going to help you and also diffuse it so you're not passing it to the next person. And I think it's kind of one of those things, choose happy.
Yeah. So how do you get yourself? Because a lot of people, and talking to people, they struggle with starting something. How do you, like you just said, no one likes going to the gym because no one does. But so what do you tell yourself to keep going when you want to stop?
It's a great question. And years ago, through our training, we get beat up. So we have different physical fitness guys who'll come in and help us. And we had a chiropractor, sports medicine guy. His name was John, big bodybuilder guy. So I was in his office talking, loved this guy, very charismatic. Well, he had all these bodybuilding trophies behind him. I'm looking, I go, holy moly, I didn't know you. He goes, oh yeah, I used to compete professionally and all that type of stuff before I got into the practice of this. And I said, I got to ask you, man. I go, how do you do that? And he goes, truthfully, I hated going to the gym. I go, what? He goes, I hated going to the gym. And he goes, in the diet, he goes, you got to eat you got to eat very lean. You got to do this stuff. And he goes, I hated that too. And I go, well, how did you accomplish that? And I've lived with what he told me because it comes down to that. It's one meal at a time. It's one workout at a time. And he basically would tell himself that I'm going to go in the gym. I'm doing one more workout. After this workout, I'm never going back again. I'll never go back and I'll never lift weights again. And it got him through the workout. He would sit there at his lunch, go, I'm going to eat this salad. I'm going to eat this, protein. I'm going to do this. And then tonight I'm having a cheeseburger and a pizza. This is the last meal. And he literally did it that kind of one bite at a time or one workout at a time. Master Clark, who's out in Colorado, UOWC, he was also into the bodybuilding and entered the amateur posing and stuff like that, which we still harass him for to this day. But the accomplishments he did was just incredible. And I asked him the same question. I go, I got to ask you, man. I go, because, we grew up together. And we have a lot of like minds of how we used to like to play and, live our lives and our wild and crazy lifestyle. And when he really took on the disciplines to do what he did these great accomplishments. And he goes, I hate going to the gym. I go, you do? I go, how do you do it? He goes, I tell myself, all you got to do is go in the gym, pick up one dumbbell, pick it up, do 1 rep, set it down and walk out.
Wow.
And he goes, you'd walk in there, and I actually would take those philosophies. I go, you know what? I'm just going to do will. I'm going to go to the gym. I will drive there. I'm going to walk in. I'm going to pick up one thing, and I'm going to set it down, and I'm leaving. And the bottom line, you do it because it's matter. It's like a 30-second decision, and all of a sudden you do it. You go, what the hell? I might as well do this. And then you get into the motion where you're going. Yeah. So I think with anything you want to start, it starts small. It's adjusting the expectation of what you're expecting. If I say I'm going to go lift weights, I'm going to do this for the next 3 years, and I'm going to become posed. No, it's not going to work. Because I'm going to set myself up for disappointment, and that's going to carry on to my next task. If I just say, I'm just going to go in, and I'm going to do 3 sets of bench, and I'm leaving. And you do that 3 sets of bench, you walk out accomplished. So it's kind of adjusting those expectations, what you want, and just literally do it. I mean, we're only gifted 1 day at a time, actually 1 second at a time. I mean, any moment we could be out. So just work that 1 second, that 1 minute, that 5 minutes, and, again, adjust those expectations so you leave accomplished.
I like the way you put it. Because what I tell myself is I set really short-term goals, like just get out the door, just get into the car. And when I meet that short-term goals, I feel a little better. So that's what I try to tell people. Set really short-term goals, even if it's like just take 1 step towards the door. And then eventually a lot of short-term goals will be leaded to a long-term goal. But the way you put it is I like that. Setting the expectations of what you want to accomplish. Wow.
So when you're dealing with people too, because I have 5 children, and they're all different, and I have my grandkids now living with me as well. But growing up and as when I became a dad, actually when I first got married, I became a husband. And I changed my expectations of myself and my wife because it was a husband-wife thing. And my mom was one that pegged it because we started right after we got married. We had to go to marriage counseling because we were all screwed up. And it really primarily was me because I said, well, now I'm a husband and now you're my wife and this is how it should be. And my mom says, you guys have always been the best of friends. You guys were great for so many years. What's changed? And she goes, are you sure you're not identifying yourself as a husband? And she nailed it. And I went, wow, I never thought of it that way. Go back to being the friend of hers. She's my legal wife, but the reality is she's my friend first. She always was. And then when it came to kids, you have an expectation. I need to be a dad that does this. And you put these expectations on yourself, or if you're working with others to say, I got a great instructor named James out there working in the studio. And if I come to James and say, James, I need you to do these 10 things today. Well, James is great at 5 of them, but 5 of them he's never done. And then I show back up at the end of the day and James goes, well, I got the first 5 done. I was really confused on the last. Well, now I'm looking at James going, come on, man, I just gave you 10 things. You can't accomplish 10 things? Or if I say, James, I'm going to give you these 10 things. If you can pull off 5, it'd be great. Now I walk back in, James is stoked, and he goes, actually, I got 7 of them done. Now he's exceeded my expectations.
Wow.
And it's really to kind of go into that mental awareness to say, okay, what are my expectations and why are they there? And then, again, this is the student, relationship with yourself is, what did I learn from this? Did it work? Did it not work? Because at the end of the day, I want to feel accomplished. I want to feel proficient. And the only way you're going to do that is to manage yourself. It's very easy to push it off on James and well, James is the one that, no, I did. I didn't explain it right, or I didn't do this. And that's kind of that self-awareness and self-accountability to make things happen and kind of accomplish what you want to accomplish.
Where did you find such humility? Because earlier you said you've been studying since you were a teenager. And I'm assuming you got married somewhere in your early 20s. So that's years of being a student of martial arts. A lot of people become arrogant after just 2 years of any kind of discipline training.
Well, you haven't seen me after I've been drinking for a while. I'm kidding. They all say I'm a good drunk, so I don't know. Hope that holds true.
Where did you find such humility to recognize that it was you that's the issue? And when you first got married, that takes a tremendous amount of humility.
I got to give credit where credit's due. That was my mom. I mean, she really, when she highlighted that. But then working in management with people, again, Daco, I'll do a shout out to him. He's going to be the guy that'll be on your show, but he's the one that's the archaeologist. Well, he's not only one of my best friends, he's the godfather to my kids, but I literally talk to him every single morning. We do a video chat and we just talk about, what are the political arenas is, we make fun of it. So I think the humility comes in when you realize you don't know, what you think you know. And by nature, I love having fun. That's one of the things I'm wired with. I want to have a good time. If we're in a work-related situation and the fun factor disappears, I'll be the first one. If I'm on a conference call, I tell them 55 minutes, I'm out. And if it's fun, I'll stay. If it's not, I will hang up. I'm not going to put myself, because I know myself now, because what am I going to do? Sit there and go through the grind that I'm going to walk out of there feeling deflated and just miserable? No. So I tell people there's things that I will do, there's things I won't do. And I like to have that fun factor.
Does that self-awareness come from your training, or do you think that came from you, inside of you, growing up?
I think both. I think a lot of it with, the martial arts is they're especially when you kind of get into the traditional aspects of martial arts, there's a lot of humility to it. There was a lot of aspects about, again, because like the Shaolin monks, they're Buddhists. So when you look at that religion, it's just really about the protection and of life. No matter if it's an insect or this, it's about being that passive way. And then again, they shave their heads so they have no humility, and it's just the vanity. I should say the vanity, not the humility. You'll have to edit that one. Sorry.
So we got an editor.
But when you look at that whole correlation of how it is, and I know one of the questions that was talked about before we started was mentors. Do I have one mentor? I really don't have one mentor. But I like to learn from a lot of different people and things, whether past or present, when you study what they've done in their life, because there's a lot of great people out there that have done great things. But if you really dug deep into them, you probably find they did some pretty bad things too, throughout life. It's like, but it's like, what do I want to do? I'm going to show up and I'm going to take the good out of what I can learn from this person, and not go and shelter them out because of one aspect of, well, they were this, and I'm not going to listen to anything else like that. But I think the humility comes that it's just every single day I look to learn. There's always something to learn. I truly like to put myself out there to help people. I love doing random acts of kindness. I mean, it's like a practice to me, whether it's being in the donut shop and dropping a 20 and walking out the door with a $2 cup of coffee and say, apply it to the next 3 customers. They don't know. Picking up tabs in restaurants. I love doing that just because people don't expect it a lot of times. They're over there and they're taking the check and they're dividing it up 15 ways or whatever. You owe this, you owe that. And then, just surprise them and your tab's been taken care of. And my secret admirer, see you later, bye. And it's just, put some good out there. It comes back.
That's the I've read, and my personal experiences are that, doing good for others is the key to happiness. Yeah. That's where you really do find complete happiness, or true happiness, I should say. And mentors too. That's one of the next questions coming up. So let's go into it now. Mentors, my second life mentor was a Kenyan man who came to the United States to get his PhD in education because he knew that the only way to change his country was to build schools. So, man, this Kimani, if I ever see you again, Kimani, because you went back to Kenya and we lost touch. Man, one of the greatest men I've ever met. I've never met a greater man than him. So, mentors. How many mentors have you had?
A lot. Actually, when that question was posed, I go, man, I really don't just have one. I'm very, very blessed because, again, I start my mornings talking to Daco, and when you have him here, you'll understand. Go, man, I can imagine it's exhausting, talking to him every morning. But I mean, from him to the other masters. I mean, Hans Prasch is one of the masters aboard, and I talk to him every single day. Master Will Clark, that's out there. My other instructors. I mean, we're constantly in a conversation, and I'm one that I learn from everybody. I mean, my 36-year-old nephew became our creative director, and probably the last year and a half we've been kind of joined at the hips with business and things like that. But I call him now my wizard because there's things of his age group and things that he's experienced through his industry of creative directing and motorcycle riding and desert living and all these things that he shares with me. But it's like he's 36 years old, but yet he shares a wealth of information and experiences that I'm not out there doing the things he's doing, but I gain the wisdom of what he's reflected on. So I mean, I can watch a TV program, and if there's someone on there that's a realistic, approach to something, and they're sharing some kind of wisdom, I'll take that 1 or 2 lines that really make a difference for me. Yeah. And
so when we're out there looking for mentors, should we just ask them to be our mentors? Like, well, how would you recommend finding a mentor?
I think it's kind of getting yourself into some form of organization or group of like minds. So again, I'm going to go back to a martial arts studio. I think it's fantastic that I really believe everyone should train. Give us at least 90 days. Try for 90 days. After that, I mean, I tell people, do it for 90 days. If after 90 days you don't want to do it anymore, you know what? God bless you. Yeah. Good luck to you. At least you tried. At least you did give it a fair try. The one reason I like that is it's the great equalizer. So regardless of your religious beliefs, regardless of this person's gender, regardless of this sexual orientation, whatever it might be, it doesn't matter. When you come into the dojo, everyone's going to wear a uniform. and you're going to be referred to as a white belt, a yellow belt, an orange belt, purple belt, whatever rank you are. That's who you are.
Yeah.
So when you pair off, you're pairing off with another green belt or a blue belt, or it's not, well, I'm pairing off with this person over here and they're Muslim and this one's, Catholic and this one's a Christian. It's none of that stuff comes into play.
Wow.
And it really kind of gets down to the basics that we talked about before. Human interaction and mutual respect. And I'm a golden rule guy. So do unto others as you want others to do unto you.
Yeah.
And I make jokes like when I'm driving, because, people cut you off, they don't signal or whatever. And my kids are in there like, oh, look at that person didn't do this or whatever. And I said, yeah, how dare them drive like me? And it's like, I always laugh because like if they come over and cut me off or they're not paying attention, they do that. I don't get mad anymore. I start laughing. I go, so that's what I look like when I drive like that, because I get distracted. I'm doing the stupid things. It's like, how dare them drive like me? But you put a little twist to it. But I think that kind of comes into play if people can get back into that, because if you and I are training together in the arts and we learn a technique that's a little difficult for both of us, and I'm like, I say I put you in some kind of lock and you're escaping from it and you can't get out, I start coaching you through it. No, loosen up here, try that. Oh, there we go. Now they actually call it a nuki. Now I'm receiving the technique being done on me so I can kind of sense what it feels like to do it. I'm also holding a position where then you start coaching each other. And then again, you get that realization that I'm becoming better because of you. You're becoming better because of me. Yeah, and that kind of comes into play that we're only as good as the people we train with. And we're only really as good as the people we associate with. And you'll find that, the like minds will kind of come together. But if you're in that group of negativity, it festers. Because I hang a lot around people that are the conspiracy theorists. Yeah. And these guys get deep sometimes, and I have to bow out. I just said, guys, I love you guys, but I've had enough. See ya. Enjoy your conversation for the next 8 hours about all the different stuff. I mean, it's entertaining, but I can't dive too deep to it because it's, nothing I can do to control it or, be aware of it. So.
Yeah, and we do have to be careful with the things that we hear, because it will affect us if you spend too much time in it. Just like brainwashing, just talking to people both ears, and you can brainwash people into almost anything.
Yeah. But you're also questioning around things that, in fact, the way I kind of relate a lot of that stuff now is, and I tell my instructors the same thing. It's like when you're out on the beach and you see the waves really breaking big. So if you come out California, hit the wedge when there's a storm, because they're monstrous waves, rip tides, but it's the surf is incredibly fun to go out there and navigate and do. However, if you're not a good swimmer and you're standing on the shoreline, you're dealing with Mother Nature. And you can't control Mother Nature. You can't just go, hey, tune the waves down a little bit. I need to cool off a little bit. I'm a little hot. You have to go out there, and if you're a good swimmer, you're going to navigate it. You're not going to tell it what to do. It's going to tell you what to do. So if you're not in a position to effectively navigate it, stay out of it.
Yeah.
So if you're in a position where you're getting into a political climate or an environment that's not healthy for you, get out of it. If you're in an environment where you can come in and comfortably navigate it and you have the skill set to do it, then, stay to where you're comfortable. And as soon as you're out, bow out. Get out of there. Wow. Put yourself in a different position.
Yeah, but that that comes from the self-awareness, the discipline to knowing what you're capable of. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
A lot of people get involved in stuff and then afterwards they're like, wow, how did I get in this position? How did I end up here?
Yeah.
How did I end up here?
Yeah.
Oh, good. So I like your advice. Go to a dojo. Yeah, because physical training, any kind of physical training, especially martial arts, I believe it's so beneficial.
Yeah.
So beneficial. Just to know what you're capable of is tremendous in getting through life.
Yeah.
It's absolutely tremendous in getting through life. Well, the second question was the mentors. We talked about that. We already talked about how did you know you wanted to be an instructor?
I actually didn't when I joined. I was in the martial arts for selfish purposes, because bottom line is I got tired of getting my ass kicked. And I said, I still want to stay funny, but I want to kick their ass back. But they had an instructor's program back when I think I was 19 at the time, 18, 19. And they called it an instructor's college. Mm-hmm. And I got introduced to it. And I think I was a blue belt at the time. And you got introduced to train with all the masters, the senior guys. And there was a nominal fee back in those days to do it, which I didn't have. And I looked at it and I said, I said, well, I'll think about it. And the idea of training with these high-ranking masters was all the inspiration I needed. So I went back to my instructor and I said, I'm really interested in this. I go, but I don't want to be a karate instructor. I want to go for the training. He goes, no, there's no obligation to become an instructor. He goes, I think you will become one, but no, there's no obligation. So I went down, primarily my interest was to get into that instructor's college for the sake of training with the masters and learning from a variety of people. Yeah. And that's where it started. And my instructor was right, because I'd come in and he'd go, hey, do me a favor, start that class over there, teach him this. Yeah. And I started doing it, but I loved it. I loved the human interaction. I always wanted to have a career that I was physically active, that I definitely helped people, and that fit 2 for 2. And I also wanted to have a great level of success. So with the business opportunities of what we do, I've had a great deal of success doing what I do, which has provided for my family and other people, and done some really great things. So yeah, it's really kind of like something that was a passionate hobby that became a career. And there were times where we went through phases where it was more work related in the sense of the grind, if you will, based on what we were dealing with. But when you come out of that and you get back into what I call the euphoria of teaching, it's magical, because it's literally as being in that environment with people and watching them grow and watching their excitement, and just when they walk out and they're so grateful for the opportunity to train in that class, and just again the interaction between the instructors when they walk out and they're high-fiving each other, because people come in after driving on the freeways, they're a little sluggish, they're a little slow, the workout starts, they get moving, they get grooving. They go through everything, but by the end of the class, you can always tell if you did a good class, because everybody congregates. They all hang out. They'll either stay in the dojo, continue to train, or they'll spend time out in the lobby just talking. Or back in the day, we shut the studio down between 9 and 10 o'clock at night. You'd finish class an hour ago. You'd go out to your car, and you'd have a group of students, 3 to 4 to 5 of them, still out there in the parking lot just talking, just really having that kind of congregational. They're laughing, having a good time and stuff, and that's really what it was. And it became a very big, type of camaraderie aspect that energy then self-perpetuates, because what are you doing? You're getting these guys all charged up. They're realizing how they really feel. They're realizing their personal best, kind of like what we talk about. And then you start sharing that good energy with people. Then they share it back with you. And then it just, so it's midnight. Like, oh, I got to go.
Yeah, I've never trained with you, but man, I could tell you're a great instructor. I
have a lot of fun.
You're so relatable. You're easy to talk to. You're good. You're very eloquent. Wow. So
all right, to sign him up right now. James, get the paperwork.
Let's go.
He's actually close to Norwalk. Yeah, I'll cruise up and teach you a few classes.
Okay, fantastic.
You got a great instructors down there. Yeah,
I'll definitely put him past
Master Rubio's up there, and yeah, he's one that he sent me something the other day, and I'm going to throw a shout out to Master Rubio, but he sent me a text message just about when we're dealing with, contractors and people that are supposed to be doing things that don't show up on time. And he goes, the more I deal with the outside trades of life, he goes, it makes me realize how blessed we are to do what we do. Yeah. Because again, we have a responsibility. I mean, we have an image when you look at a karate guy, it's like, yeah, that guy's got self-discipline. He's got this. We're humans. Yeah. We fall short sometimes, but the reality is when you have that responsibility, it's not about me. It's about this person. And I need to do whatever. I mean, hey, back in the day, I mean, you had the flu, you showed up. There was no reason to never show up for workouts or anything. After COVID, everyone's like, oh, I got to sniffle, I got to stay home.
COVID changed everything.
Yeah, but it's getting into that role and responsibility that makes you feel good, because there's pride. And one of the sayings that we always have is always leave knowing you did versus wishing that you had.
Oh, wow.
And that's part of like the workout. So when we start a workout, I mean, again, getting the workout is tough. These guys, sometimes will teach till 10 or 11 o'clock at night. They got to get up in the morning. Workout starts at 8:30, sometimes 9. And when they get into the workout, it's like, oh man, they're tired or whatever. And I said, always leave knowing you did versus wishing that you had. So if we're doing bag work, fighting, whatever, always push that little bit more. So when we're done and we bow out of that class, you look at it and go, I'm leaving knowing I did. I pushed myself. I made it through this class. And again, like they say, the only bad workout is the workout you don't do. So you have to get in there.
That's a great T-shirt. What you just said right now?
We have that. Yeah, we have that.
Oh, yeah.
Always leave knowing you did. That was our Thursday workouts. So we did Tuesday workouts for instructors was more instructional and, kind of strategies of teaching and that type of stuff. Thursday was their class. So that was just a training class. So they'd come in and we'd start off with bag drills and push-ups and squats and fighting drills, and it was old school. So I mean, people would get banged up a little bit. We had we left the back doors open. There was most every class someone had to run out and they would throw up and they'd come back in. But I got to tell you, that was probably every one of our instructors was in the best shape of their life, because you knew that Thursday was coming and you prep for it. You'd eat right, you'd get yourself hydrated and show up for that class. And then it's self-perpetuated. So these guys would just step it up and step it up and step it up. And, but that was always the tagline. So in the middle of the class, when you're down on, you guys are turning green and down, guys, you got 15 more minutes, man. Remember, always leave knowing you did versus wishing that you had. Because if you try to bow out, no one will let you leave. No, you're not leaving. Get back over here. And we used to puppet them. So if a guy was just physically exhausted and he couldn't lift his arms, another one would stand behind him. And literally we call it puppet. I go, puppet him. And they would grab him and just have him keep fighting through. And it's like they have nothing left. And really they're being supported by their comrades. But you get done, everyone, applauses, high fives, and then you walk out with that, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. It's a constant empowerment.
God, that builds such camaraderie too.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Oh my God.
It's awesome.
Yeah. That's tremendous. And we definitely need that in this society right now.
Oh, absolutely.
In our current culture. We definitely need that. Wow. How much I don't know if this is an appropriate question, but how much does it cost to get started?
Average is about $200 a month.
Okay.
But we specialize in private instruction. So one of the things I think that puts it, you have a lot of different martial arts, styles and organizations out there. But I think the one thing that really kind of helps us stand out, we personalize that. We're really about that individual person. So when you initially start, you're going to start one-on-one with your instructor. Wow. This way, everything is geared towards you. And if you have any injuries, physical limitations, we work around that because that's also life. If you can't do something, we'll find a way for you to be able to do it. So it doesn't matter your current physical condition, injuries, previous experience, whatever you feel that, I don't know if I can't get in there, because they'll interview you, they'll walk you through it, they'll show you everything. And our system is very user friendly. So when you first start, you're working primarily with the karate side, which is a linear art, and it's very easy to learn. But you'll walk out day one knowing how to punch, knowing how to kick, knowing how to block, and knowing how to do a couple techniques. And then when you kind of understand the science of fighting, if you will, and again, instinctually, number one instinct is survival.
Yeah.
We want to feel good. We don't want to feel bad. Avoidance of pain. I don't want to get hit. So if I learn to block, that means my chances of not getting hit in the face have just increased.
Yeah.
But also, again, it's going to come down to that socialization, because all of our instructors, we just did it this every single week. We actually work what we call TNT, teaching and training drills. Not only do we teach you the material, we train you how to use it effectively. Okay. So there's a philosophy of teaching and training that goes through everything that you do, so that you can retain the material and understand how to use it in the wide variables of life, if you will.
Oh, okay. Let me see. What philosophies in Kenpo would benefit men today? Because that's the purpose of this podcast. How do we help?
That's a great question. I love that question. Now I'm going to start off with something here, because one of my best friends that I grew up with, and if you notice, I say I have a lot of best friends, because I really do. I have a lot of best friends. I'm very, very blessed with that. His name is John Dunlop. Shout out to John. But he said this years ago, and we always laughed at it, but it stands so true to this day, is that you can't be a pussy and be a black belt.
I like that.
Let me say that again. You can't be a pussy and be a black belt. Well, again, because of our, hypersensitive, society these days. We were in a meeting one day, and one of our female instructors, Sensei Carla Bravo, we were discussing some strategy of teaching or whatever, and attitudes of something, and she raised her hand. She goes, sir, I know this might not be the setting, but I'd like to remind us of a phrase that we all know very well. And I go, what's that? And she goes, you can't be a pussy and be a black belt. And the whole room erupted up into applause.
Yeah, but saying that out here in public, man.
No, I know. It's like, what do you mean by this, and what do you mean by that? It's like, the reality is, it's an attitude. So I think the one thing, with Kenpo, we make a fist, and there's a lot of symbolism and a lot of philosophies that go on in the martial arts. So I think when you're standing there, your very first position you learn is front position, and it starts off with a fist, a tight fist, because this symbolizes power of your mind, your body, and your spirit. Yeah. The left hand covers up the power, and the idea behind that, it's a symbol of kind of a yin and yang, but it's also that we try to take peaceful means first. That's our first approach. However, you have the power here. Yeah. Now, what are you going to do? You're going to use the power of your mind, your body, your spirit, or collectively all of them. But from a self-defense standpoint, we have the ability to take peaceful means, use our mind, get ourselves away from the situation. But you still have this, that if you physically have to defend yourself, it's okay. Yeah. And I think that's kind of where it starts. So you kind of come in with an attitude. I'm going to try to take peaceful means. I have a power of my mind, my body, and my spirit, and I want to rely on that. I don't want to put myself at risk to this person. Like you say, you don't know if they're crazy or how crazy they are. Why would I put myself at risk there? I got kids to take care of. I want to go have fun tonight. I don't want to go to a hospital room or get put on the slab in the morgue because I made the wrong judgment. I don't want that. I think the attitude of being a student, the philosophy of coming in, that it's a journey. They say that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with that first step, and it's very true that martial arts is is a progressive learning process that never ends. The only time it'll end is when you stop and you don't want to learn anymore. So I think with having the attitude that there's a lesson in everything, we can always become better. Things that we were great at yesterday, we might not be really good at today, but still there's that discipline of practice of understanding and kind of taking that philosophy of being a student of life. Obviously, when you get knocked down, get back up.
Yeah.
You get knocked down, you get back up. They always say, if you fall off the horse, get back on the horse. And I'm a true believer in that. In fact, when you're training with a partner, you're training two sides. So one is the uki, the person that's the one that's punching at you or attacking you so that you can practice your technique. Well, most often that person ends up getting, punched, kicked, and thrown to the ground in a controlled manner. So there's primary safety. But the reality is when that technique's over, you just got beat up. Now get back up. They say up, and that person springs to their feet and resets and gets it going again.
Yeah.
So literally through your training, you're constantly either delivering your self-defense technique and taking someone down, or you're the one punching in, getting yourself beat up around so you understand what it feels like and how the techniques work. But you're getting thrown to the ground only for the practice of get back up again.
Yeah.
And again, just never giving up.
Wow, that builds fortitude. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tremendous. Well, we try to not keep. I could talk to you for hours, man. You're such an interesting person.
I appreciate that.
So, but we try to keep it short because our audience, or AI told us to keep certain time frames in mind. So I'm gonna
edit.
yeah.
Please don't leave that part out about you can't be a pussy and be a black belt.
Okay, we won't. So I wanted to thank you for being here. God, I'm so impressed by you. I cannot say that strongly enough. I'm so impressed by you, sir.
I'll send a lot of people your way that'll create more of an impression for you with it.
Wow.
All the ones that I stole that material from today,
Yeah.
I'll send them down your way and they go, oh, I remember Kris saying that. I remember Kris saying that. I stole it from them. You just, take from the best that are around you.
Yeah. Oh, that's tremendous, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. And I wanted to thank my audience for watching today. I hope you've learned. I hope you've grown. And as usual, if you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section. And either I will address them or I'll get my guest and I to address them. And please like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.